Also watching what's happening in Belle Chase and beyond, and I think that's where Maya Rodriguez is.
Yeah, Maya?
Well, Angela and Eric, we are seeing some serious flooding here in Plaquemines Parish. In fact, we just came back from an airboat ride. That flooding happening because of an overtopping of a levee on the parish's west bank. That is a back levee on the west bank. Take a look at this video that we shot. This is Highway 23. It is completely underwater. It is accessible only by boat at this point. And then we saw cattle, lots and lots of cows. One person tried to help one cow to get out of the water, but a lot of them that we saw, unfortunately, did not make it. Others sought refuge on higher ground, including several cows that ended up on the front porch of a home. We saw people who decided to stay in those areas, even though they were under a mandatory evacuation order. Many of those homes were elevated. The folks told us that they were okay because their homes were above the water and they had enough supplies. All of the water down there is about 5 to 6 feet deep. We are talking about communities like Ironton, Point Celeste, Myrtle Grove. All of this is because Isaac was around for so long that it pushed water in and overwhelmed those back levees on the western side there. We've been talking about this for several days now. It was always an area of concern here in the parish, and of course we saw it happen on the east bank of the parish. That's why so many people were trapped in their homes there by those floodwaters. The discussion now has to do with how to get rid of all this water, because when this happened during Gustav in 2008, it took a couple of weeks to pump all of the water out of that came back over those West Bank levees. And now there's discussion about how to get rid of the water in sort of a quicker fashion. The idea is to intentionally breach both of those back levees on both banks, the East Bank and the West Bank, once the water goes down enough and they can actually see the levees. If they do this properly, they can breach it and the water will begin to flow out of there, because right now it's pretty much trapped in there. But of course we have to wait for some of the surge to go down for them to be able to see the levees and be able to do that breach so that the water can begin to flow out, and whatever won't go out, then they can pump out. Eric and Angela?
And Maya, that surge should be diminishing somewhat now, but you know, every hour we go by in this storm, we see it gets worse and worse. We find out there's been more damage than previously thought, and that's happening in Plaquemines.
It is, and you know, we've been going through incredible bands today. All day long we've been dealing with rain bands, gusty winds, and we're thinking, gosh, it's been days now that we've been dealing with this. Now I will tell you, just within the last couple of minutes, we're seeing something we haven't seen in a while, and that's the sun. I can see it peeking out over here. Finally, after a couple of days, I'm sure that's the thought for many people here. Finally, we're seeing a little bit of sunlight.
Let me ask you something, Maya. Was there any way, because we knew that there were cows out there yesterday as well, was there any way for anybody to have herded them earlier?
I suppose that was a possibility, but again, keep in mind that a lot of people thought this was a Category 1. You know, they didn't think they would see this much damage. I will tell you this, we did see some wildlife officers down the road trying to assess the situation, because these cows are pretty much running wild at this point in some areas. You know, they're just out of their enclosures. They're on Highway 23. Wherever there's a dry spot of land, you will definitely either see a cow or some kind of other wildlife down there. So a lot of people were telling us, you know, we just did not think this was going to be that big of a deal. This did not seem like a Category 1. But again, we're dealing with this storm surge because it was around for so long partially and pushed all of that water in. So now this is a situation that everyone's in.
Well,